1981, we went down south for Grandma's funeral. My cousin Button smelled like weed. I told him, drug addict, you stink. Where's your pride? My father got angry because during the funeral service, one of my aunts sat in the car and cried instead of coming to the church because she's Jehovah's Witness. My other aunt told me my father told Grandma my mother's a lesbian, and when I asked why, she said, because he's hurt. I announced I'm going to the movies. Boy cousins want to see The Howling, a movie about a TV anchor woman attacked by a serial killer werewolf. I drove Grandpa's Buick down Big Bethel Road. The boys complain I drive slow. Thought about the preacher's son at the funeral. That preacher's son was only 5'7", but his voice was deep and woodsy. His voice sounded like the smell of leather. He made my mood ring change color. Gave him my number. My godmother was my mother's lesbian lover. My mother said it was when they were in college, North State Teachers College. I flew down south for the summer. My cousin Buttons made us burgers. Grandpa said when I drive the Buick, don't flood the engine. Grandpa wore a blue suit for church, but lost his teeth before the service. I drove Big Bethel and flooded the engine. Grandpa and Ratbone came and started the engine. The preacher's son called me. He likes my mind. He likes my shape. He wants a date, but he said he has a girlfriend. The preacher's son called me at midnight. He wanted to come over. Is your father home? He asked me. My father's at his girlfriend's house, I said. Can I come over? We should talk. What we got to talk about, we can't talk about over the phone, I said. I want to see you in person. We haven't discussed Jessie. You have a girlfriend, I said. Come on, he said. What does that have to do with us? America is never going to elect a black man president, I said, to change the topic. Look at what Jesse did in Syria, he said. He saved that man's life. The brother could do miraculous things in the Democratic primary. The brother could be our first black president. Please, I said. America's never going to vote a black man president. White people will never vote a black man president. This is the 1980s, he said. You got to have faith. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. Why did he say that about the Jews? I said, it's not that hard to avoid certain words. No man is without a flaw, he said. I believe that was said in jest, unfortunately. What have you said to me in jest? I said. I am somebody, I said, repeating Jesse Jackson's favorite slogan. That's why you can't come over. Let me in your rainbow coalition, he said. Walter Fauntroy wanted to be the first black president, I said, to change the topic. I saw him speak once and he broke out in song. I thought he was going to pull out a banjo and start tap dancing. Lieutenant Robert O. Goodman, he said. That's the Navy pilot Jesse freed in Syria. That's international. That's important, he said. Very important, I said. You want to be friends, he said. Okay, let's be friends. Bring your girlfriend over tomorrow and I can introduce y'all to my father. Come on, he said. Don't be like that. I gotta go, I said. I was content to be alone. I wanted to say come over, but I hung up the phone. Do you love him? The preacher's son asked me. Your new boyfriend. Is that any of your business? I said. I just want to know. Do you love him or are you just using him as a passport to respectability? You know what? I said. I'm hanging up this phone. He's going to be a doctor, isn't he? The preacher's son said. Is that a crime? I asked. It's a crime if you don't love him, he said. I got to go, I told the preacher's son. I haven't seen you in ages, he said. I have news. Last week you convinced me to be honest with her, and I told her how I feel about you. Please, I said. I know you're lying, and it's not even funny. No, he said. I thought you'd be happy. How can you tell her how you feel about me when you haven't even told me how you feel about me? I said. I like you, he said. What kind of statement is that? You like me. You like a dog or you like a glass of milk before bed. Like, that's all? What? He said. I care about you. You want me? What kind of question is that? I said. Do you have any thoughts about me or like what you would say to a woman or a lady? Everything you say to me is like for a lady of the evening. I have strong feelings for you, he said. Yeah, but not the kind that lead to marriage, I said. You have strong feelings for me, all right. The kind that end when you get out the bed. The preacher's son sent me a letter. He said he broke up with his girlfriend. The letter was written in blue ballpoint pen on white notebook paper. His handwriting looked scribbly and confused like a hornet's nest. I have made mistakes, he wrote, but now I realize you have done more for me by doing nothing than many have done by doing everything. I don't know where this may lead, but we love each other. Yours in weal and woe, Geoffrey Chaucer. Dating was dangerous in the 1980s. We were hurtling towards the year 2000, the space age, the age of technology. People had car phones, Walkmans, fax machines, home computers, home answering machines. You didn't have to hire an answering service to take your phone calls anymore. Cable television, VCR machines, harsh laws for selling crack. And you could get AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, a death sentence. Should I give the preacher's son another chance? Was he only in love with me because another man was in love with me? If that other man was out the picture, what would the preacher's son do? I wrote a letter to the preacher's son. I told him I would not enter a relationship with him if he was the last man on earth. But I would be willing to talk about it late at night on the phone. Big mistake. I left New York and ran to be with the preacher's son. He'd broken up with his girlfriend. He had his own apartment. I went over to his place and he set the table and baked the chicken. After we watched a movie, I moved my hand before he could grab it. Then I reached for his hand just after he moved it. It was a sign. It wasn't meant to be. As a casual topic of conversation, he said he never wanted to get married. If a man tells you he never wants to get married, that's a sign. His bed didn't feel like a bed. It felt kind of dead, uncomfortable and dead. He was buzzing around me like a bee, very busy. Meanwhile, I was trying to psych myself into it. That was a sign. At 5:45 in the morning, the telephone rang. It was his ex-girlfriend. She had a flat tire. He jumped up like there was a fire. He grabbed his keys. He said I could let myself out. A few years later, he got married. But he said he never wanted to get married. But he was just talking about to me. That's just my opinion.